Eden Koz here with Just Be, and we are about to take a spiritual boom. We are at an unprecedented time in human history where we are transitioning from 3D to 5D within the great spiritual awakening. This video and audio podcast is the place for you to find your truth beyond politics, your sovereignty, your voice. Let's kick up your vibration now. By the way, each episode ends with the Just Be practice to do just that. And as we begin the show, just to know a little bit more about me, I'm a soul realignment specialist, meditation master, and dimensional healer. Learn more, and there's merch also at EdenJustBe.com. Let's get this party started. Feel the energy and then relax. Here we go. Eden. Just Be Spiritual Boom in association with the Grassroots Warrior Network. Welcome, Andrew, out of Michigan. How you doing today?
Super. Thanks for asking. And Eden's laughing because I told her that that's my canned response, and but it catches people off guard, and I'm better than fine. And things are trending upwards right now. So I am actually having a really great day.
And I think that response right now is really good too. Really good. Brilliant. All right. So I'm going to talk for a minute before we get more into Andrew, because a lot of stuff has happened. So I really today in our discussion really want to talk about unity and peace and coming together. So before I read your bio, I do want to converge in you. Is this correct that you come at the Great Awakening from a more biblical perspective, yet very open to energy, 3D and 5D? And we met on the Unity Tour,
yes,
which I need to include that. Okay, so
that's exactly right. The long story short, raised in a Catholic family, but then started asking questions, then reading the Bible for myself, and then also kind of outside of organized Christianity, realizing that there's a lot of spirituality going on out there that is way outside the box and incredibly helpful, incredibly useful. And
nice.
I do believe that enlightenment is the launch pad for our spiritual journey. So I think we're just rolling up to the launch pad for most of us, and I'm open-minded, and I think that is of great value, especially at this time, especially to bring in the unity is to be extremely open-minded.
That's beautiful. And I'll read more in a second. All right. I am very passionate today before we begin. And there are a lot of things that I want to state, and we can talk more about this, Andrew, also. All right. There are so many memes out there right now that are, in my view, kind of attacking folks on the liberal side. And again, whoever is doing this on whatever side you are, it's just, if this is truly about creating unity and love, stop it. Just stop. Okay. It's not about one side, anybody one. Okay. And I'm saying this too, because I had, so I do one-on-one client sessions. I had a younger client Friday. So we're recording on Tuesday, and this is 2 weeks before it's produced. She, because of the election, was so distraught. Essentially, she's in school believing that everyone in her school is not going to be seen anymore, that the world is downtrodden. And at first I tried, just to talk to her a little bit. And she was like, Eden, I really don't want to talk about this. So I said, what would you like from me? She's like, I just want you to listen. So it was beautiful because I'm very feeling and could feel the pain within her and the reality of that feeling for her. So it gave me so much more depth and empathy, because this is what she believes.
Right.
And for me to discount that for her on any level, again, would separate me from her. So it was beautiful. It was challenging to watch her. And when we got done, like this one part in her, I felt stated that she was all alone. So I got to talk to her after it and go, you're not alone because I can feel you. I can feel the pain that you're going through. And within that, we are not separate from one
Right.
another. So
Right.
that was beautiful. Okay, I'm going to keep talking for a second. Okay, so Andrew was going to be my guest 2 weeks from now. So I had another person scheduled for today. So we just chatted yesterday and rescheduled, which was wonderful. Okay, this has never happened. So I had interviewed her on another network that I work with, and it was clear to me that she knew about this transition that was going on. So I assumed we were on the same page. So yesterday, beautifully, she's a numerologist, sent me a video that she had done for me to watch again so we could have more stuff to talk about. And in it, she talked about voting for Kamala. And suddenly I went, whoa. Okay, because I believe, and Andrew, maybe you hang with this too, that a vote for Kamala says to me that you're not aware of the deep state, of the cabal, of everything that's going on. Or if we want to get cosmic about it, the Greys are the reptilians. Then
Yeah.
she, yeah, then
There's
she
there's one
also,
more there's one more to put
oh,
in
go
there.
ahead. Oh gosh, there are
There's
tons.
there's one thing that people haven't challenged me on is the depopulation movement. If we
We'll talk.
understand
Yeah, I
that there is
know.
a depopulation movement out there, and it starts spiritually, but then it enters through elites, and then it plays out politically, and
Yep.
and we can either participate in it, we can ignore it, or we can challenge against it that we believe that life is good. So
Yes.
so depopulation movement, if people haven't heard that, that's something as a trailhead to start a little bit of understanding. But go ahead.
Okay. Woo. So anyway, her video also stated, that all of this is about unity and coming together, which I'm like, okay, that's yes, I love that. So I texted her back and I said, hey, just to let you know, I voted for Trump. Yet this would be a great opportunity for us to come together and talk about unity and talk about, we can have our differences and still be aligned.
Right.
And did I also say she stated that Trump was a master soul? Okay, which I believe again he's not a savior, but is really here to assist with everything. So she sent me a pretty negative text back, and I looked at it, basically that Trump is evil and all this stuff. So I waited for a couple minutes because I was thinking about what my response might be. And then she texted me about 10 minutes later, basically saying she could not do the show.
Hmm.
Okay. So then I was like, okay, my response is very pivotal in this. And I said, yes, I agree. If we can't stand in unity, then it isn't time for this right now. So for me, Andrew, this was the first time that she sees that there's a change going on, yet in seeing that being on totally different sides. And I've seen with many spiritual people before not really getting all of
Yeah.
this, but this was really interesting to me. So I also want to say that I know of at least two people that I've had on my show that don't quite realize everything that's going on. So I try to be so good, I guess you'd put it, about bringing people on and asking certain questions. So I know I'm going to have to ramp things up a little bit. So I always talk about you also, listeners and viewers, being very discerning of who I have on. And the two that I'm thinking of specifically, they're good people. Their heart's good. So it's not like, oh my God, because again, that's me promoting division. Oh, and Andrew, let me give you one more thing. I am also involved in this nonprofit that's all about creating community. So we had a meeting last night, and there were about 20 of us, a Zoom call, and it was led in. Oh, this election, everybody's sad. Let's talk about it for a
Yeah.
moment. And I'm sitting there going, I'm not sad. Okay,
Yeah. As soon
because yeah,
as soon
what
as
were you going
somebody
to
as soon
say?
as somebody uses all or everybody,
Yes,
that is the red flag of all red flags, because then wait a minute, that person is the spokesperson for the whole planet. It's like that we're never going to get 100% unity as on this planet. So, but we can get a consensus of what is best or what is most noble or what is most pure or what is
Yes.
most good. It's like, but I do believe that using those words, you know, all, every, never, like there's those certain, those words that create a certainty that, and it's like, no, that's so, and that falls into math eventually. Like you were
Mm.
talking about numbers and numerology, it's like, well, wait a minute. So if we're making sentences, do they mathematically add up? And if I can kind of go into a real quick part about that is like you mentioned the background, so I'm going to steal the background part. So I was just living a quiet life in South Florida as a rideshare driver, and then the lockdown happened, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I've been put out of
Okay,
work
because that
3.
was going to be my
Yeah,
first
I'm
question
gonna
for
steal that
you.
because I do want to go into that because I do want to do the math. But if you want me,
Can we hold this conversation for
okay,
just a moment? Because
I'll pause for a moment.
this is deep. Thank you. Because I
Yeah.
want to read your bio first.
Hmm.
Um, so so in that meeting, I
Yes.
just sat there and held space. And when we broke out into groups, I was so happy and so excited because I was also wondering, am I going to bring up this great awakening from a bigger picture standpoint? Because it's really interesting
Right.
too that these communities that we're creating, the whole piece of it is we're really going to step out of political views. We're really going to step out of all these things that
Yeah.
divide us. And we start the meeting with division, which is okay. One more thing. I told you, Andrew, I got a lot to talk about today. I also believe right now we are really starting this great split. So it's like you can easily
Are you
switch train
talking
tracks.
timeline split or what kind of split are
Timeline
you talking
split. Yeah. So thank you. The split in if you are going to move into a high vibration, into love, into truth, you can really start to do that right now. Okay. And I believe that it is easy to go on the train track to get onto this, but I believe as time, which I don't believe is real, progresses, it's going to be harder. And I also believe right now that people who are attached to fear and to this hell, that's what they're going to experience. So, what is so neat is there is also truth in all of it. If this is
about?
your truth and this is what you see, this is what you are going to experience. Okay. So,
Yes.
can I read about you?
Oh, all
And
right.
thank you for waiting and bring it. But now we'll get to you. All right. Andrew Charles Evanch. Did
Excellent.
I
Yes,
say?
thank you. Yes.
Yay. Okay. Worked as a travel agent, also worked in the auto industry in many roles, served 8 years in the U.S. Navy Reserves as a heavy equipment operator. More recently has volunteered and worked to help whistleblowers, truthers, and investigative journalists, bringing truth to the surface since 2020. Growing up in a suburb of Detroit, Michigan, which is an interesting state, he noticed that people had everything they could want in the world, and yet they were still unhappy. So, in his later teenage years, he asked, why? Why do people do what they do? What is their motivation in life? Over time, that answer became self evident, and he states he oversimplified it into selfish or selfless reasons. So we'll talk more about that. In his early 20s, after receiving a life changing job offer, he heard a whisper, "This is not what I want from you." I'm trying to whisper that. He argued back, "I grew up in religion," which you talk about Catholic religion. "I don't believe you interact with us on a daily basis. What difference does it make if I work here or there? What difference does it make if I work or live here or there?" Again, the soft whisper, "This is not what I want for you." And he remarked pridefully, he says, "I don't care. This is what I want to do. I'm going to do it anyway." This began a 10-year journey of multiple experiences, allowing him to gain various perspectives on life. Okay, so can we go back to you being in Florida, driving, and then just
Yeah.
noticing the lockdowns? Welcome, you.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. And so yeah, most people are just going about their daily routine, and my daily routine was being a rideshare driver in South Florida, um, and one day I'm making 100 to $250 a day, and then the next day everything's turned off, and I made $4 waiting around for 4 hours, and that's the only ride that I got. And so obviously it was very dramatic. And with my military experience, I've been in a gas chamber more than once, and I've worn the big canister mask, and I knew that the military's response to something deadly blowing around in the wind was not accurate. Like, wait a minute. there's something deadly blowing around in the wind, and they're going to use something that would not save somebody's life. And it's like, that does not add up. That does not match up. So I did the math in my mind, and I'm like, that's a it doesn't work. When you work it out, it doesn't add up. So
So, what do
uh,
you feel the military should have done, or what would you
well,
have
if there's
seen as
something
a
truly,
reaction?
yeah, if there's something truly deadly blowing around out there, they would have gone to the MOP level 4. They would have put on the protective suit. So like you put on the overpants, the overcoat, the boots over top of your boots, the gloves over top of your gloves. You put your mask on. It's like, so all the protective stance is designed that if a chemical, biologic, or radioactive uh, danger out there, it would buy you some time to potentially get to a safe distance or to neutralize the contaminants or the threat. So this is something that we practice multiple times. Putting on our gear, getting that mask on first as fast as we could, and then working on the rest of the gear. So, and then also how to decontaminate vehicles, how to decontaminate our equipment, how to change out our uniform if we had to change out our uniform. But it's something that we practice a lot. So wait a minute, everything that we've practiced is not being put into motion, and it's like that is a obvious disconnect.
Interesting. I think you're the first person to lend that perspective. So, thank you so much for sharing that. So, that was how you saw the military handling things, and in the world, it was not handled that way at
It was
all.
100%. It's just 100% obvious that everything that we're trained and what they were actually doing were two different things at that moment.
Okay. All right.
So that
So,
that leads me into asking
yes.
questions. And
Okay.
so one question leads to 1,000. And I was doing homework like 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours. I was noticing websites would disappear. If you didn't screenshot, save, or record whatever you were searching, it could be gone the next day. So websites were incredible. It was literally, it's like it's like water. It was just literally liquid that you could see a website that would have a source information, and then it would be gone the next day. So that really raised a lot of questions to me. But the most profound next level step was in October of 2020, meeting Zac Vorhies, the Google whistleblower, and he gave a 5-minute speech. We're in a room full of millionaires in South Florida, right before a campaign event or what, a fancy dinner, and oh, they're going to give him 5 minutes to speak. Well, I realized this is the most important person in the room. If we
Okay. To tell me about him, because there are so many
Yeah.
names, a lot of people that I know and a lot of people that I don't. So, who is
Yeah, so
Zac?
Zac Vorhies, Vorhies. So Zac, he worked at Google for 8.5 years, and he found the Blacklist file. So let's say if I were to take your
Got it.
name and put it in the Blacklist file, we would not find you anywhere on the internet of anything that's associated Google. And then whether it's the search engine or YouTube or any other thing, it's like once our name is put in there, then we disappear off the digital platform. So let's think of anything else. What else could they make? You know, what's, I'll stick to kind of the things that are already out there, that he's written about in the book Google Leaks. So Google Leaks. And the truth about the shooting in Las Vegas. It's like what was really going on? Was it just a random shooting, or was the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in town? There's more to the story. And then also there's videos that show a helicopter flying around. It's like, wait a minute. You got the Las Vegas airport, you got the Janet terminal. The Janet terminal has the planes that go over to Area 51. Basically, a helicopter would have been flying right over top of those radars and nobody noticed it. Yeah, right. Nellis Air Force Base is less than 5 or 10 miles away. So, oh, their radar's not picking up it's like, so the absurdity of that it's just what was reported. Another aspect is how many people have heard of vitamin B17? In the last few years, people are starting to talk about it, but if we look on any package in any grocery store, it's been deleted from that list of
Oh,
vitamins.
jeez.
And supposedly that one's very beneficial. Cancer foundations, these cancer foundations continue to rake in cash, but seem to produce very slow and limited
Boop.
progress. And it's like, well, And then even furthermore, if we were living in Ireland and we try to look up the Eighth Amendment, that is something you're not allowed to look up at that time on any Google platform. So I'd describe it as this. If if let's say our knowledge base is is 10, and then we just take one number away from that. So now we're down to 9. So Google will put out there, because of putting any word in the blacklist file, they can reduce our knowledge down to 9. And it's as if they're trying to tell people 4 plus 5 equals 10. And then they're going to tell other people 5 plus 4 equals 10. So both parties have bad math and then fight. So like you got coworkers, you got neighbors, you got husband and wife, you got parent and child. So basically they're fracturing all of society on bad math. So can we mentally be stable? Can we spiritually be stable? Can we physically be stable? Can we emotionally be stable if we're all on bad math? We're on a shaky foundation. We're on sand at that point. So if we're on a shaky foundation, how easy is it for a big tech company or you know, a secret society to manipulate us at that point?
Mhm.
We're easily pushed around, and if we're fighting amongst ourselves, then so World War One and World War Two proved the strength of America, that when we united, we literally could take on any part of the world, and basically we could take on 2 wars at a time if we were pressed to it. So we had one going in the Atlantic and we had one going in the Pacific, and the United States was still able to continue on. So the Third World War, or the fourth or fifth, whatever we
Okay,
want to
let me get
call
your
it.
impression on this. I have
Sure.
also learned that America did have a big hand in creating those wars in terms of financial, in terms of, okay, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, military industrial complex. Most people don't know that phrase, military industrial complex. It's a machine that wants to be fed all the time, and it wants to grow bigger, and it's a giant monster that there's corporations out there that if they do not have war contracts, they will not survive. So
Yeah.
um, they're waiting for the next war. But then most people don't realize that the media companies, it's like, how is it? Oh, they're going to embed journalists. Well, are these journalists part of the peacemaking process or the war making process? And so if they're putting out bad math as a media company only showing one side of it, what was really going on in Iraq? Did they have a Stargate? Did they have the secrets to free energy? And, would if, there's more to the story. And if we don't ask, if we just accept what's tossed at us at
Right.
at face value, or we just read the headlines and we don't get to the root of the issue. So the 7 months that I was doing research, I was trying to get to the root issue. And the root issue was either we have bad math or we have math that adds up. Like 5 plus 5 equals 10. But there's also 6 plus 4, 7 plus 3, 8
Yeah.
plus 2, 9 plus 1, 10 plus 0. So there's many ways that we can arrive at the truth. And if we have the truth, if we solve that one key puzzle piece, then we can start solving all the other ones. And so real fast, Henry Kissinger said that
Mm.
um, if we control the food, the energy, and the
Mhm.
money, we can control the people. But what did he
Yeah.
leave out? He didn't tell us the information. If we understand where the information's coming from and how it might be twisted, and then where it's going to, we'll figure out the whole rest of it. And so Kennedy, speaking in 1961 to the Press Association, he was saying, hey, there's infiltration and intimidation. So that speech is very important. Everybody needs to research and study that speech to understand the media's role in either creating war or peace. And so they make more money off of creating war than they do peace. So now, when Trump became president, what was his first stop? I love asking, the most important thing to creating peace with the people closest to us is asking, first making a friend, like we introduce one another.
Okay, can
We
I ask you real
Yeah,
quick, were you, when you started making these discoveries, did you have friends that were there with you? Were you by yourself and finding these things out? Because it can be a quite a
Yeah.
lonely experience.
Well, so the first 3.5 weeks I was working with Zach and Miriam and Ian, two investigative journalists. So the four of us were working together. But when
Okay,
I was doing my research, I was
how'd you connect
alone.
with them? Were you
So
just like,
through
oh my
Zach.
gosh?
Yeah,
Okay.
through Zach. But at first I was alone,
Okay.
and then I found, like so to give another military mindset is
Yeah.
if you're alone on the battlefield, the first thing you want to do is find a battle buddy or a fellow warrior. That's the first
Yeah.
thing you do. If you're alone on the battlefield, you're going to find a second person that's got your back. Okay, if you press your back against me and I press my back against you, we don't have to sleep in the mud, right? So,
Yeah.
or I'm watching out for you while you're watching out for me. And then well, with a team of four, now we have a fire team. We've got four of us. So then two can sleep and two can stand watch. So that kind of mentality. But then eventually you want to build a squad. So our squad was able to raise $137,000 to sue Google within 7 days.
Wow.
So most people don't approach life from realizing that you have to bring more people into the fight. It's like the the how to build unity. Well, it's not that we agree on everything, it's that we agree on what's most important. That you have value, you have a right to breathe, you have a right to drink water, you have a right to eat food. I I have value. I have a right to breathe. I have a right to drink water. I have a right to eat food. It's like if we could start at what's most basic that we can agree on, that you have a life of experience from your journey, and there's some puzzle piece in it that has great value to me. So and then, I have life experience and my puzzle pieces may have value too. Now the key is that I may have value. It's like I might be sharing something that's relevant to you. I might be sharing something that's completely irrelevant to you. So that's why one of my favorite questions, like in the making friends, it's like, really get to know somebody and make a friend and then find out what when I was a rideshare driver, I would ask, what are you excited about? Is there
Oh,
anything exciting going on today?
I bet
Because,
you were so great,
well,
like making a connection
I
with
was a
them.
moron at first because I got it wrong about 100 or 500 times. And then I started realizing if I asked the question,
Okay.
is there anything exciting going on? Then I give them control of the conversation. They're going to tell me, oh, I'm in town having a party. We're having drinks. We're doing this. We're having fun. Or I could have a mom I've worked all day and I'm going home to my kids. Well, somebody that's worked all day and going home to their kids that they just want to make dinner for their kids, they're not wanting to have a energetic conversation. But the people that are in town for a party, they're wanting to talk about anything and everything. So then as I've done my research, I would just wait until they stumble on a topic that I have a different perspective on from the mainstream media perspective. And I'd ask a question, hey, have you heard about this? So rather than telling people, because
Yes.
everybody has a fortress up, right?
Mhm.
So, it's like until there's a trust, until somebody's credible, there's that fortress that goes up, and a person has to earn that trust. And so, if I'm going to tell somebody, well, that fortress is up and it's just going to bounce right off.
Mhm.
But if I ask somebody a question and all of a sudden, whoa, wait a minute, the drawbridge goes down, and now, the person comes out to have a little conversation.
Well,
It's
because you're also not saying, I believe this. You're just, hey, what do you think about this? So basically saying, hey, I'm willing to hear whatever you have
yeah,
back about that. Again,
yeah.
peaceful, non-judgment. Hey, can you what happened to you on a plane recently?
Well, so it's really interesting. I was just flying down to Florida for a Veterans Day weekend celebration and fundraiser, and the gentleman sitting next to me is a nonstop flight between Detroit and West Palm Beach, and so the gentleman sitting next to me is a French journalist, like a video camera operator, and he speaks fluent
Whoa.
English. Now, on the other side of him, in the aisle seat, is a gentleman that worked for a big tech company and you know probably used his skills to make some serious money and very intellectual, but at this moment he was saying, Trump and hate in the same sentence. And so he is extremely emotional. And I said, well, you know, now I've, a little context, I've had about 5,000 conversations in the last 4 years. So there's some that we win and some that we lose, and there's some that are win-win and there are some that are lose-lose. If I make a fight, I've caused a lose-lose. If
Mhm.
I make a friend, I've created a win-win. And so many of us are trapped into this win-lose, that I have to win the conversation. It's like, no, we should seek mutually beneficial. In any case, I let this gentleman talk. He's very emotional. I said, I
Yes.
understand. I understand your emotions from the aspect of you know like those we need to give them a little bit of respect and validation to say you
Yes, I
you have
agree.
every right to feel that way
Mhm.
from your perspective. If that's the conclusion that you've come to, I respect that. I understand that. From my perspective, it's uh I've walked the grounds of the New Albany Classic in Ohio, where they have a horse show, and that property was a Wexner property that was signed over to Epstein in 1994, and then they're raising money for women in traffic of women and children of domestic violence, and they have this great, beautiful fundraiser. They have 10 to 20,000 people there a year, and it's like, well, most people haven't heard of Wexner, and it's like, okay, but most people have heard of Victoria's Secret or Abercrombie and Fitch. And it's like, so most people don't realize that Epstein was in control of those companies since 1994. And then they had this 20-year fundraiser and they raised the money. And then they had this family friendly event. The last horse that won was named Voyeur. Why do you have a horse named Voyeur at a family-friendly event with people understand that that's an adult that wants to look at other adults making love in an inappropriate way? But so in any case, we were going back and forth, and so many people tried to say that Trump was friends with Epstein, and it's like,
Right.
well, is that the truth? So when Epstein acted up at the club, Trump kicked him out and said that he would cooperate with law enforcement to the full extent. So then eventually Jeffrey's in Palm Beach, but his release amount, he could literally walk free in and out of prison all day long and then go right back in. So like he had the greatest work release of any person ever on the planet.
Yeah.
So and then furthermore, I asked the gentleman, so going back to where my research was,
Okay, so y'all really
and
had
then
a y'all
asking
had a y'all had a major dialogue.
Oh, it was heated a little bit, and the French
Wow.
the French gentleman in the middle of it, was kind of like the peacekeeper. It's like the demilitarized zone. I mean, so he was very polite about it, and then but this gentleman, I think that really helped to keep it a little bit cooler,
Yeah.
is to have a little awareness of the situation, and it's like, are we pouring fuel onto something or are we calming something down?
Mhm.
So, I always want to try to, if somebody's very emotional, I'm going to try to calm them down. I'm going to say, hey, can we get more to a logical side of the conversation? Can we do a little math here? So, because if we go to the logical side of the brain, things will calm down if it makes sense, if the numbers add up. So I said, okay, Executive Order 13818. If somebody has committed a serious human rights abuse or possibly a crime against humanity, their property could be blocked. So so that happens December 20th of 2017. And then a couple months later, there's this tiny little article that says the New Albany Classic has come to an end. And there's another little article. Oh, the New Albany Classic after 20 years has come to an end because there's a scheduling conflict because there's a bigger event in Palm Beach or in South Florida.
Okay,
And
is
I'm
that
like,
is that a golfing?
no, this is horse jumping. So
That's a horseshoe.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't spell it out. So like the Abigail Wexner was really into horses, and
Okay.
and they had some of the top horses in the world coming from all over to put on this show, this exhibition. So the Wexner estate's about, I'm guessing, about 300 to 500 acres and it's got like a French chateau. I mean, it's gorgeous property. But so So Trump puts the executive order 13818 out on December 20th of 2017, and then 3 months later, the New Albany Classic has come to an end. So was that property seized? It says it is permanently closed if you look it up. And so, and that was just one point. But I said, here, let me go one more for you. I was driving from Boca Raton to Palm Beach, and there's a blue airplane it's a little darker than the color of the shirt that you're wearing,
Okay.
but it was a shiny blue airplane, and the tail sign, the call letters were November 212 Juliet Echo. So November, is very common in North America, but 212 is Manhattan's phone number, and then JE for Jeffrey Epstein. And so that plane sat around and faded for a year, 2 years. Nobody was polishing it, and it just kept getting pushed around. Well, when Air Force One would pull in, it's basically looking at that plane like it's a trophy. They literally probably left that plane out there just to show everybody that's flying in and out of Palm Beach, here's what's going to happen to you if you get on the wrong side. And so there's a line that's been drawn in the sand, and it's like, okay, are we making a division for what sake? And if it comes to harming other people, if it comes to harming children, if it comes to, something that's harming another person, well, if we love people, we would not want harm to come to other people. So there are certain times that we do have to draw a line. We might have a disunity, but most people, as I've had these 5,000 conversations, most people want to go to work, they want to pay their bills, they
Mhm.
want to
Want to
watch
be
their
happy.
they want to watch their sporting event, they want to, take a vacation every once in a while, take their selfies and then go back to the grind. And they want to be married, raise their children, and have a very quiet life. That is the majority of people everywhere I travel. But from a military standpoint, most people don't understand that there's criminals out there. They will steal or take or kill anything that they can get their hands on, but then even worse, there's evil people out there. And so most people don't realize that there are evil people out there. And so it's not a pleasant place to go. It's very disturbing. It's very upsetting. It's very stressful. But
And
we
how
have
did
to,
you? I didn't realize the level of evil. And when I started, because I was presented with it
yeah,
also, and doing, I was clearing a house as well. So that was like presented with demons, and just, that they wanted to tear my body up,
yeah,
and take my soul. Like I knew it, but I didn't know it. So
yeah,
that to me was one of the hardest parts to really wrap my head around. Hollywood and people,
yeah.
news people and political people that I trusted, and to realize that it's all a sham. Was that really difficult for you?
Yeah, like I'll give you one.
Yeah.
So obviously, 2001, I was a travel agent out of work.
Yeah.
2002, I had a day off of work. I was working in the auto industry, and I got invited to go to see George W. Bush speak at Oakland University. He's speaking with the president of Poland, and he was talking about the unity of NATO at different times and where Poland and the United States had worked together, through different wars. But at the end of the event, he comes down to shake hands, and I'm 10 rows back, and I worked my way up to the third row, and I put my hand out there up high, and
Yeah.
he shook my hand, but he looked me in the eye in a way that, it's like he looked through the crowd to make eye contact. And I thought, wow, a person that shakes hands like that, they must be a person of character and integrity. So, 2006 comes along. I joined the military because if we're going to have endless wars, I might as well choose my job rather than have it chosen for me. So
Mhm.
I take the test, and they're like, well, you can do anything except for nuclear propulsion. I said, great, I'm not interested in nuclear propulsion. What do you need most? Well, we need construction. What do you need most? Okay, we got Navy Seabee, heavy equipment operator. We need that. I was like, all right, sign me up. So I go for basic training, I go for advanced training, that's 9 weeks and then 4 months. And then I go back as a reservist, I go back home to my day job, working in the auto industry. Um, so, fast forward to 2010, 2011. So 2010, 2011, I was over in Afghanistan with 700, our battalion, 700 Navy Seabees went over there to do construction, and I had
Yeah.
a great experience. We got to do construction. We were extremely busy for 9 months, and things were ramping up still at those times. And um, so then I had a pretty amazing experience that um, both of tragedy, but then also of beauty. So of tragedy, I traded uniforms with an Australian soldier because we did it like as if we were soccer players. They were doing security for us, and while we were doing construction, they were watching out for us.
Okay.
And so we traded uniforms. There's about 20 of us, and there's about 20 of them that wanted to trade. And so, the one that I received, that gentleman, his job was to look for IEDs. Now, when
Okay,
we
what's
moved,
that stand for?
it, improvised explosive device.
Okay.
So anything that you could make go boom, it's like they could potentially put that in the road to cause damage to a vehicle. So, um, so in any case, 3 days after I left that team, we were working on the front lines for 30 days building up a base, and then I was going back to a bigger base, and this gentleman was out looking for IEDs with his teammate, and he stepped on an IED, and that was his last day. And so it was, tragic. It's very sobering to realize our days could come to an end at a moment. Every day is a gift, so I had a big wake up call at that moment. So I go back to the bigger base, and
Mm.
and we're working out, on the fence, expanding the base a little bit, and then preparing for water drainage. Like if a flood were to come through, that the water would be able to go through the wall and out in the base and then out the base without tearing out the wall.
Yeah.
Well, there's these little children that are there, and they've lived there their whole life. So there's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, there's one of every age. And then these children, they just wanted to play, or, do you have any paper or pens? Do you have any drinks? Do you have any candy? It's like they didn't speak any English, but they would just use hand signals to try to ask for things. Well, the
Mhm.
littlest one, she's wearing simple play clothes, and her hair is just out here going in every curly direction. She's just
Okay.
absolutely adorable. Brown hair, brown eyes, light brown skin, and just just adorable. So she's touching the barbed wire, and I said, you know, Marabani los mowa. It's the only phrase that I learned how to say in Pashto is please do not touch. So she's touching it again. I said, Marabani los mowa. She says, she's touching the barbed wire. Well, then after I said it the second time, she reaches up with her little tiny hand and she touches my hand. And it was, in
Oh.
every superhero movie, like when there's like where they send an energy weapon,
Mhm.
like they send a boom or a bang, like whether it's ice or fire or a radar, or like sending out any kind of energy. So this little tiny person sent a shockwave of something that hit my heart, and I was just melted
Oh.
instantaneously. I'm in a war zone wearing my camouflage uniform, doing heavy
Oh.
equipment work, working with a shovel or whatever we were doing at that moment. I just had to take a step back. And fortunately, there was enough of us I could kind of, to myself, kind of quietly call a timeout for about an hour or so and just think
Wow.
about it. And then the next few days, I really started meditating and praying on it. And I was like, okay. And what I received back was God was telling me, that's how innocent I see you. Now,
Oh.
I'm 30 something years old at this time, and I've done a lot of things good, bad, and indifferent. And if he sees me like this tiny little innocent child, so have we all grown up in a war zone?
Yeah.
So let's start there, that to have empathy and compassion for any other person that we are about to cross paths with, let's just start that we've all grown up in a war zone. And so there, and I'll use just one Bible verse, the John 10:10, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that you might have life and have it more abundantly, is what the Lord said. And so um, that's the two teams right there. It's like when I go back to the depopulation movement, the enemy wants to steal, kill, and destroy. So obviously he's pro depopulation movement and reducing the Earth's population below 500 million. The
Mhm.
Lord wants us to be fruitful and multiply and have as many children as we can. So all this theology that kids are expensive and we can't afford this and we can't afford that, it's like we have to take a deep breath. We have to start over, realize that there's a spiritual battle going on.
Yes.
There's lightness and there's darkness. There's either where we play you remember the TV show Survivor?
Yeah.
So, oh, are we voting people off the island? Are we canceling? Are we deleting? Are we removing? Are we,
Yes, we are.
I've been kicked off of Facebook recently. I got
Oh.
kicked off of Twitter years ago. My Lyft, a nurse wanted to argue with me. I got permanently deactivated from Lyft because the nurse thought her view was better than my military experience. I had you know, I've had other injustices that have happened, but okay, so let's say if we take an injustice and we make it into our superpower, that
Hmm.
I've been able to have 5,000 conversations in the last 4 years, so I've gotten pretty decent at making a friend and sharing my little puzzle piece of that math. That it's like, hey, do we have bad math or good math? 5 + 5 = 10. So, yeah, I mean, it's most people don't want to go there.
Yeah.
It's our society in North America usually doesn't spend time on philosophy, doesn't spend time on spirituality. Um, if there's a few books, if I get the green light to write a book, like one of them would be uh like from my golf experience, Life at 3 miles an hour. So if I've told stories as a rideshare driver, I might be going 30 miles an hour, I might be going 60 miles an hour. If I was just on a plane having a conversation, well, the person that I was traveling with, we're traveling at 600 miles an hour or 500 miles an hour. And but if we think of the life of a shepherd walking along, and I got to see a few herdsmen or shepherds in Afghanistan, they're walking along very slowly. They don't seem to be carrying water or backpack. Their animals are just meandering. They're just kind of going crisscross behind them or near them. And so how fast are we moving in our mind and in our being and in our
Yes.
body? And so I think we need to just take a breath or a quick moment to realize, well, wait a minute, how fast are we going now? Working on golf courses, I would get out there. So I'd get up at 4 in the
Okay,
morning.
you
Yeah.
had so many jobs. Let's go ahead and put in that. You are
Yeah.
multifaceted.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, to give a hint of context, if a teacher says that a kid has ADD, it's just that he realizes that he's capable of doing all things. And it's like, so going back to that programming, they're going to try to program us down to doing one robotic widget, one
Yes.
robotic job, one part per minute. It's like, but so let's say walking a golf course 6 days a week, and if I'm changing the pin positions, I get up at 4 a.m. I'm at the golf course at 4:30. The first green's not cut until about almost 6 a.m. by the time all the mowers get out there. And so I've been able to have my water or my cup of coffee and watch the sunrise. So one of the things I really encourage people to do is if they're trying to develop their spiritual gifting, make time in the morning. Get up, that means we got to go to bed earlier, but then we get up earlier. And you know, I had an excuse to have stillness for
Yeah.
1 to 2 hours, watching the sun rise, watching the clouds come up, and watching the palm trees sway, watching the water, watching, maybe the sprinklers were going on around the golf course. But, you know, in our society, most people don't carve out times, like, let's say, like a sabbatical or a Sabbath. And most people right now, are we on the year of Jubilee? What does that mean? So, so in biblical history, going back to the Old Testament, after the seventh year, sixth into the seventh year, you rest your fields for a whole year. Do we, as human beings, schedule in our year off, our year of sabbatical? Well, if you're a teacher or if you're in certain professions, you actually do. But most people, if we're in a grind, we never
Right.
schedule it. And then the year of Jubilee is now you've had a Sabbath year, and then you have a second rest year. So it's the 50th year, and you have a second rest year. I believe that we are in a second rest year. So a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so tired and I'm so worn out. And it's like, well, are we trying to run 1,000 miles an hour in a rest year? And so I just wanted to give a little context to that because I know a lot of people aren't talking about that, you know, and I think it's very helpful in understanding the context of what's going on right now is we're, you know, going back to the emotion. Let's say somebody's experiencing anger because of something that's happened recently. Are they experiencing anger because they didn't get what they want? So if we're in a self-centered society, it's all about me and all about what I want. If we're in a selfless society, we may care about others and their needs. But if we're in a spirit-led society where we have a benevolent spirit leader that they're working things for our good and for their purpose, well, okay, so that helps me to understand a little bit more context that, it's like, I got married at 21, got divorced at 25, and like I haven't had children yet, it's like, so there's a lot of things in my life that I've wanted early on, but I was after the instant gratification rather than the delayed fulfillment. I
Mm.
was after the quick fix. Talking about the anger, um, I had a lot of things growing up as a kid that were emotions that I hadn't been able to communicate on. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm carrying 4 or 5 bags of
Yeah.
baggage, and I'm in a relationship with somebody that had 4 or 5 bags of baggage.
And then boom.
Right. And so let's understand that if we're coming across acquaintances, that people that we're meeting, they may have 4 or 5 bags of baggage. We don't
Yeah.
know what's going on in our life. We may have a lot, we may not, but like having that understanding that somebody might need to unload a bag on us, and we might be able to carry it or accept it for a little while, and we might not. It's like, um, one of the biggest things is we're in fall, right? And so up in the north, we see the leaves falling off, and I think it's so beautiful right now. I've never embraced the fall colors after the leaves fall. It's like now the
Mm.
trees are empty, you know, and it's a release. So
It
this is a
is.
great time to release all things old. This is a great time to release any
Yep.
baggage. This is a great time to release old mindsets or anything that doesn't serve us. Like one of my mentors used the word, "Does that serve you?" And it's
Mhm.
like if it's not serving us, then let it go. And then also,
Or why does it serve you? Because there are a lot of untruths within yourself that it serves you to keep you safe, but it actually doesn't keep you safe. So there's so many paradoxes to
oh, that's
discover. And
that's
that's what I help people do too.
yeah, that's a
Yeah, it's
wonderful
tough.
point. It's like, was I safe working in my cubicle? I so when an attack came to an America, I was technically safe working in a cubicle, but then my livelihood was cut off 10 days later. So, so our notion of safety, it's that is one of the greatest fictions in the world, is that we
Yeah,
live in a
I would
dangerous
agree.
world. There's certain things that we're aware of that we do to protect our safety, but then there's things that we're unaware of, and um, you know, um, and then
Well,
let's
let
say,
me add into
yeah, go ahead.
that. I feel as this great awakening is happening that when you increase your trust, because I don't fear death. I don't, because to
Mhm.
me, that's not real. Our soul goes on. So part of it is also, because one of the things in that group that I was telling you about, that community group, the little meditation at the beginning was about safety. And I was
Mm.
sitting there going, I feel safe. I do not feel that that is the meditation that I desire for myself. So I'm going to hold space for everybody else because, and probably going through all of this experience for you, Andrew, and speaking up is I have safety in my faith. I have safety in me. And I know that I cannot be hurt, that I don't have to have fear with anything. It's such a freeing experience. Okay. And feel free to comment on that. Two more questions, and then we'll go to the Just Be practice. So, comment, I want to know, do you mind? How is your heart right now?
I'm glad that you asked that. And
Oh,
so
good.
we're touching on um I'm trying to figure out how to segue this in.
Yeah.
So over this weekend, um, and I'm gonna step back 2 months. My mom was actually in a auto incident that she lost her life in a unforeseen manner. You know, she
Oh,
lived a good life, lived to 75 years old, but it's very easy to say that she may have lived another 5 years or 10 years,
okay.
given some opportunity. But um, so I had stayed with her for 4 years, and she was caring for me, and I was caring for her, and then it became time for us to part ways.
Okay.
And so when she was having either a heart attack or a stroke, she tried to drive herself to the hospital, and then went through downtown, and then got
Oh,
disoriented, and then her car ended up in the water in the intercoastal waterway. So so as I'm working through my grief process, it's like, well, wishing that I could have been there for her,
yeah.
wishing that, wanting to blame somebody else, wanting to be angry, wanting to, it's like be frustrated, going through it. And most people don't realize that grieving is a 1 to 5 year process. And even though I've studied a little bit about the grieving process and gone through, some group therapy on grieving, it's just it hit me in ways that I didn't expect. So,
Yeah.
anyways, when you ask how my heart was, I would say over the last 10 or 20 years, and especially in the last 2 months, it almost like as if my head was in one place and my heart was in a different place. So
Wow.
just completely disconnected, right? So how could I be a successful person if my mind and my heart are having this disconnect? If there's a conflict inside of me.
Mhm.
So then I'm going to a veteran weekend, which helps veterans heal from PTSD. Now, I spent 90 days going through the program, and it's fantastic. So it's Fort Freedom, and based out of Palm Beach Garden. And so I'm invited back as an ambassador. So one of the events that they had for us is they had 5 boats to take about 30 of us over to a tiny little sandbar. It's got
Okay.
beautiful trees to give us shade, beautiful beach, beautiful water, perfect temperature in the air, perfect temperature in the water, and then there's the Stewart air shows flying over. So like we're military men and women watching occasionally a few military planes fly over in formation. And so it was, and then a lady put out a spread for us, and it was fantastic. So we did a little bit of breath work. That, like we were
Awesome.
relaxing, and then we did a 30-minute breath work session, which was wonderful. And then
Nice.
and then I'm sitting next to a spiritual coach that I've done some inner child work with. And then
Whoa.
she said that, like, as I'm telling the story, she's like, "Do you know that your mother's okay?" And I just stumbled around with the question for a few moments, and I'm like, because I can't say yes, then obviously the answer is no. And then some unbelievable way, all of a sudden she's like radiating love or microwaving me with love. And she's like, "Do you feel it?" And I'm like, "Yes, I feel love." And she said, "Not only is she okay, but she wants you to be okay." And she's smiling. And so, um, like that really helped. For some reason, that solved the disconnect between my mind and my heart. And like from that moment on, I just it was almost like a healing in that moment.
Yeah.
So I would love to be able to explain what that spiritual coach was doing. I don't know what her gifting is. Like I may have grown up Catholic and then Christian. She may have grown up in Judaism. It's like every, so that's why I'm open-minded because, everybody sees the world differently. And what we're doing is we're building a picture of heaven on earth.
Yeah.
So because it doesn't fit on my side of the puzzle, why would I reject it? Or because, it's not fitting in a spot where I need it, why would I reject it? Like I believe that each of us as a little child, we're given a puzzle piece and it's upside down and it's gray. So let's say we're children sitting in a classroom, we have a gray puzzle piece that we're looking at. We're told to sit down, be quiet, and not ask any questions. I'm the little kid that turned my puzzle piece over and I said, "Hey, mine's got color on it. Does yours have color on it?" It's like the teacher's like, sit down, be quiet, stop
That,
distracting the class. And then you find a corner piece, an edge piece, and then you find two pieces that connect.
yeah,
And so that is so the two things that evil people are afraid of is one, that we would realize our value, and that our values in community, and that community is built on truth. So if they're putting out information that's leading us away from truth, as soon as we find the value in community and we find out the truth, then we're locked together and it's game over, because now we're unstoppable. We literally could do anything on the planet
yep.
in a humanitarian aspect. So I do believe that 2025 is going to be the year of humanitarian projects. That
Look, it's starting.
the key for those of us that are, maybe we're intuitive, maybe we're spiritual, maybe, whatever we kind of self-label ourselves, we're people. We may have developed a certain, maybe we're better at praying, maybe we're better at meditating, maybe we've got a gift of healing touch, maybe we have a gift of vision, or a gift of encouragement, or a gift of hospitality. So so but realizing that we're literally building heaven on earth, and heaven on earth starts with gratitude and sharing a drink, sharing a breaking of bread, sitting at the table, and coming together as people. As if we only allow ourselves to be labeled as people, and that's the only label I'm going to allow somebody to give me, is I'm a person, and together we're people. And it's like realizing that it's okay that we don't have to agree. We could disagree about everything and anything. And
Because it'd be boring if we all agreed.
well,
We'd be
so
so
let's
homogenous. There's nothing unique.
right.
Yeah, I love it.
So we're in sports season, and it's like, how have we been divided by sports? If like, for example, going back to the Roman days, if they give us bread and circus, we'll
Yeah.
be easily controlled. Well, in America, it's pizza and football
Mhm.
at the moment. And so, whether it's professional football where everybody gravitates towards regions or cities, and we're divided into 32 different ways because of somebody wanting to move a pigskin, like
I
they
know.
want to move it at 100 yards or 99 yards, and it's like, and people are going to get wildly excited over that, or a sack or an interception or a big play. It's like, we need to, so like I've kind of stepped out of sports for the most part. Like I will only give about 15 minutes of my week to watching highlights, and so that way I can just have a conversation with somebody. But I've completely backed out of it, because it's like, wait a minute, what is it really doing? We're
Right.
having grown adults smashing themselves into each other at full speed, and then having life-changing brain injuries. And it's like, when I realize that the fallout, because we don't realize that these players are switched in and out. It's the same thing in the military. The players are switched in and out. So in a society, if we want to know what's evil, a society that consumes human beings for self-gratification, or for entertainment, or for evil purpose, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. We need to figure this out. What are we really doing? Are we feeding people into a meat grinder, whether it's war or it's sport? For what purpose? And so I think that was a big spiritual awakening for me. And I'm not judging, I don't
Yeah.
condone, I'm not speaking bad about anybody. If that's what they want to do, then that's great. But I don't take joy in it the way that I
Yeah.
used to.
Yeah. It's just not for
So
you.
So, the biggest thing is going back to the puzzle. Let's say if it's a 5,000 piece puzzle, and let's say there's people all around the world working on different sides of it, I may have a puzzle piece that needs to be sent all the way around the world. Like, for example, this gentleman that was in between the two of us that are
Yeah.
Americans, that could have had a massive conflict. Well, there's the French gentleman, and he's looking at both of us making valid points. Well, he may have grabbed one of both of our puzzle pieces, and he's taken them over to France, and he's going to solve the puzzle over there. Like when I met Zach, I was living in Florida and he was living in California. So the puzzle piece that he brought me unlocked a whole segment of my puzzle.
Hmm.
There's another shout out I have to give out to Dylan Lewis Monroe.
Okay.
I am a huge fan of Dylan Lewis Monroe. I've gotten to meet him. I've had dinner with him one time, and I got to host him in um, Kentucky, in I believe Lexington, Kentucky, on the Unity tour. And his maps help me because I'm a visual learner. I'm either
Is
learn
he
by
the one?
or
Is he in
visual.
Cincinnati?
I believe so.
Like he? Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he
He
was a
was at the
fashion
one in
designer
Tampa.
in New York City, and he saw the 5G towers going up, and I think that's how he started his research. So it all starts with
Ah,
one question.
yes, it does.
Literally just ask a question,
Yep,
ask, seek, and
that's how it
knock,
started with me.
and um, there's a Bible verse that it is for God to conceal a matter, but it is for the glory of kings to search a matter out. Well, in a society that we're trained to be either employees or job mentality or slaves or servants, we don't think of the things of being a king. So, like, we don't ask the tough questions because we're just doing what we're told to do. But there's a certain
Exactly.
point where that will no longer serve us, and we have to ask the tough questions. So some people started their question, their journey of discovery or enlightenment 10, 20 years ago. I started my journey about 4 years ago. I believe there's 1 billion people that haven't started it yet. So we need to realize that I'll give one last story because I know you're wanting to wrap up, but I'll give one last story. So we're in Afghanistan getting
Yeah.
ready to get on the airplane to go home. We've done our 9 months worth of service. We've completed our construction projects, and it's our turn to go home. And so everybody's in a line. A lot of times like coming into country, I volunteered to unload bags and that got me first class seats. So that was really cool.
Oh,
But
there you
on
go.
on the way home, I'm like, I'm ready to get out of here. So uh, we use a military plane that eventually takes us to a passenger plane. But so the first one's the military plane that we're going out, and I know which seat that I want. Like I don't want to be in the middle because they have rows of 5 by 5. So it's
Okay.
25 on a pallet and there's 100 down the middle. So it's like, there's when people don't like the middle seat, imagine a middle seat with two people on either side of you and you're
Major middle seat.
you're on a pallet in the group of 100 people. So,
Whoa.
and so the side seats are facing inward, and you got more leg room, and you got a little bit more mobility if you got to get up and move around. And so I knew that I wanted the very front right or the front left seat. And so I noticed that everybody was looking one way. So if I get at the end or if I'm the last person, when they turn around towards the plane, I'll be the first. So I got there, and then they said, "All right, go ahead and march on the plane." And now I'm the first one to lead everybody on the plane. And so, I go ahead and I get my seat. But the reason why so let's say there's 200 of us going to get on the plane.
Mhm.
In that 200, we've got, let's say, the 10 or 20 most elite of our group that by strength, by skill, by military understanding, by discipline, by able to carry out a mission, they are the best. And then you've got the people that are in the middle. There's kind of the main body that, they do their job.
Right.
They're not trying to be extraordinary in any fashion. And then you've got 10 or 20 in the back that might need, the nicest way to put it is that they need help from mommy every once in a while.
Okay,
It's like
got it.
they need
They
a
need a
little
little
kick in
nudge.
they need a little kick in the pants or a little screaming at them every once in a while. But that plane can't leave until all 200 get on the plane. So whether we're the ones that are well squared away, that we're extraordinary up front, or the middle body that's just happy to be part of the pack, or the ones that are always, you know, on their own timeline, always holding everything up or just disorganized, not able to care for themselves. Well, that plane wasn't getting off the ground until we all get seated and we all strap in. So
Yeah.
be patient, because a lot of people that have gained a bit of vision on this Great Awakening movement, okay, you might be in the first 10 or 20. but keep in mind, this has been a movement that started in the 60s or started 150 years ago. So we're really more main body than we realize. And then those that are the last to come, like one of the most important things that I learned going on mission trips is the mercy of God is that he would not leave anyone behind. That if there's an opportunity for one person to have an attitude adjustment or to, go from being selfish to being selfless, he's waiting for that one person to turn around before he takes the plane and takes us to where we need to go. So as this great awakening movement, be patient for the last person that's going to join our movement so that way we can go forward because there may be something extraordinary that they're supposed to do. They just haven't done the about face yet.
Mhm.
So I think that gives me the best context. I'm human. I still get tired, angry, lonely, hungry. Like if we have to call a halt, you know, we might have to pause and then just refocus that it's not about us. It is about when we think about unity, it's not about me anymore. It's not about my ego or what I want. It's what we do together. And I'm a huge fan of the Wizard of Oz movie. I think that everybody needs to
Ooh,
revisit that if you can't remember
yeah,
what happens,
man.
the face-to-face conversation that takes fear and turns it into understanding. And then they wake up the next morning and it's all been a bad dream. I think that's a very important thing to revisit is the Wizard of
Yep.
Oz movie.
And
And that
who's behind the curtain? Yeah, that's
um
really interesting.
there's one more that was off the let's say like the Jetsons. you know, if we are able to do the quantum math or the simple math to solve every one of the world's problems, will we be flying around like the Jetsons? And I do believe that that will happen. How fast did Elon Musk take a space program and turn it, it's like he went from not having rockets to having rockets doing extraordinary things in a pretty short amount of time. I think that's just to kind of show what can a person do if they partnered with other people and they were able to do extraordinary thing? And I think that's something out there that has been done to show us what's possible and give us a little bit of a glimpse. And yeah, I think I there's people walking around saying the best is yet to come.
It is. And if we can take
Yeah.
this moment and move into the Just Be practice. And I want to add one
Yes.
thing. I think that 2025, for those who are excited and joyous, 2025 is going to mirror that for you. For those of you who think it is horrible, it's going to mirror that for you too. So for me right now, 2025 is just going to be joyous, beautiful. Andrew, I think it will be for you as
Mhm.
well. All right. What are you going to do for the practice today for everybody?
But
Just be
so what
practice.
I'm going to do is what happened. I'm going to do, if people want to open their eyes or close their eyes or just, get in a comfortable position, but I'm going to try to give a visualization of the experience that I had after yoga on the
Okay.
beach. And
Nice.
then, okay, so imagine, get to your comfortable place, kind of calm your breathing, and let's say that we are on a beach facing eastward. The sun's above the horizon. It's warm, it's bright, and it's a breezy day, but not too strong, just a gentle breeze, warm and comfortable. And we're sitting on the beach on our towel or on our mat, and we've just completed an amazing yoga. And let's say we're in a group, fill it in with, let's say, 20 or 30 of your friends or yogis or people that you wish to be there. And it's a wonderful day. You're fully feeling relaxed. There's no tension, there's no stress. You're in community. You have people around you that are you're sharing joy and you're sharing a moment together. You're sharing an experience. And the waves are coming in. They're kind of curling over. It's not quite surfer waves, but it's waves that are beautiful. And if we can imagine what the sound of the ocean might sound like, just rolling or splashing up on the beach. And then let's say in our group we have that one friend that's always the first one to act. So our first friend jumps up and decides to go swim in the water. And let's say a few more start making their way to the water and getting into the water. And so in this moment, it's, do we make that decision to get in the water? And maybe there's a little bit of hesitation, or maybe there's a bit of resistance, or maybe there's maybe a no. But after we take a deep breath, why not? Let's experience this. So walking down toward, feel the sand between the toes, walking down to the water, and then let's say we walk in and feel the first few waves. They're not real hard. They're actually seemingly gentle. That as they hit our knee, or as they hit our leg, they're not really pushing us back. They're actually dividing around us, and the water temperature is beautiful, and it's cool and refreshing, but not cold. And there's the swell, so there's a bit of a wave, and then a down, and then a little bit more of a rising wave. And so eventually dive in and under and through one of the waves, and just feeling light and feeling the buoyancy, and that the water's lifting us up, but we're still able to touch the ocean floor, the comfortable sand. And so, feeling the weight being taken off of us, that we're fully buoyant, and we're able to float or swim, and just enjoying a moment of time in between the swells and the waves. And imagine just the most gentle wave picking us up, maybe 3-4 feet, and then lowering us back down, so that way we can touch our feet again on the sand. And what a joyful thing to kind of ascend up the wave and all the way to the top, and then to gently come back down in the swell and be able to touch the ground. And so this moment is able to continue as long as you wish or you like. And um, in my experience, there was maybe half dozen or a dozen of us playing around like children in the water, and no cares, no concerns, no worries about what's going on in the world, good, bad, or indifferent, just being little. And this massive ocean just has gentle waves that can pick us up and lower us back down. And once we're content, once it's time to start streaming back onto the beach and eventually drying off, just enjoying a moment, enjoying a memory, enjoying an experience, and just the mind, body, soul, and spirit being in alignment, being content, being grateful, being relaxed, being in community, being at peace, and experiencing a wonderful experience. And so as we take one more deep breath, and when we exhale, just go ahead, and anything that we're holding on to, shake it off like water. Let's release anything that we're holding on to. So we'll breathe in. Exhale fully, and just release anything that we're holding on to. And now we're free.
Oh, Maz, I liked your last statement, and now we're free. Man, Andrew, in talking to you, that I really desired this to be our show today, to be about unity and
Yeah,
peace. You really ended it with that. So thank you. And I always give my own impressions. That was really necessary for me too,
thank
to
you.
really, because I'm pretty centered, let's say, but that just helped me be more. So thank you for that.
The last
Okay.
the last
Yes.
thought of that is,
Yes.
if we think on one thing going forward, think of the drop of water, that how many drops did it take to lift us? And it was just a drop being a drop.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't resisting its purpose. It wasn't egotistical. It just was a drop being a drop. And so, for us to just be, let us just, like, it's not what somebody told us that we need to do. It's not what we want to be. It's just us being the best version of ourselves and us just being ourselves. We're a 10. Nobody has to tell us we're a 10. We're always a 10. Now we can improve the work that we do. If it's a 5 or a 6 or a 7 or 8 or a 9, we can improve the work that we're doing. But always we're a 10, and let us be the best version of ourselves and just be a drop in the ocean. Just embrace it.
Just be, I love that. All right, y'all. See you next week. Thank you, Andrew. Y'all, find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Truth Social, as well as Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, plus a plethora of other audio directories like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So like, subscribe, do it all. See ya.